Welcome back everyone dito sa latest episode ng Deep Dive. Ito yung FYI series pa rin natin about post-elections and of course, most importantly, patapos na. Post-19th Congress, arguably the worst ever Senate in Philippine history. So now with the new Senate coming, we have our special guest, wonderful people, amazing people. Based on the fake news we got from Secretary Ronald Liamas, ayan na naman tayo. We thought there's gonna be an emergency last minute. Yung pala, sorry, July pala, hindi July. Ikaw, mapapawak tayo. Not...
Yung Senate President.
Yes.
Kinocommit yung susunod na Congress.
So, since nakabang kami hanggang kagabi kay Bukoy and then the gang, we have a special guest since we had the illegal Luminary. Now, let's have back with us our legal Luminary, Justice Carpio. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Sige na nga, thank you, Sir Ronald. On that note, Justice, oh my God, let's clear the air. So, what is the status of the impeachment going from the 19th Congress to the 20th Congress, Justice?
Well, it looks like that there will be a crossover from the 19th to the 20th, and the answer of Sara has been filed ad cautelam, and the House already filed its reply. And what's interesting is that Sara's answer ad cautelam relied mostly on the ground that the one-year bar rule was violated. In the reply of the House, they laid down the dates, and they're saying that there was no violation. They met the 10-day requirement,
Right.
because on the 10th day, the fourth resolution was signed. Over 30% of the one-third of the House members signed it, so that automatically supersedes the existing 3 complaints at that time on the 10th day. So they did not violate their own rules. No, so this is a new twist because the lawyers of Sara relied almost entirely on the ground that there was a violation of a one-year bar rule. It turns out, based on the reply, that there was no violation. So it looks like the defense their entire story will collapse, because in the other allegations, like for example that these payees of the confidential funds were fictitious. The requirement of the law is that Sara should have denied it specifically. I deny that these are fictitious. The truth being they are actual, and she has to state that under oath. But what they did was they just denied. That's considered a general denial, and that is deemed an admission of the allegation. So
Interesting.
it looks like they're in a terrible situation now, because they relied wholly on the one-year bar rule.
This is the Fortune firm,
The Fortune
basically.
firm,
Yeah.
yes.
That was the same case they filed sa Supreme Court, di ba?
Yeah, and
They
well,
dismissed it.
it's also pending in the Supreme
Pending,
Court.
yeah.
But
And, it was the same argument, the remand argument, which Alan Peter used.
yes,
And one year back.
so it looks like they're in a terrible situation now, because their principal defense is the one-year bar rule was violated. Looks like it was not violated. And then they did not specifically deny under oath the allegations of fact, like these are all fictitious payees. So
The House invoked jurisprudence. Di ba may precedent yan? Yung ganyang
Yeah, well,
one-year ban.
yeah, they invoke the Francisco rule that the one-year ban starts when the plenary transmits the complaint to the Committee on Justice. That's when the one-year bar rule starts. But it never reached the first three complaints never reached the committee.
So
And
technically, they were archived.
well,
Yeah.
they will, because the rule says that the the House, the Speaker, must send to the plenary the impeachment complaints, and the plenary has 10 session days. When you count the days, session and not calendar days,
Right.
exactly on the 10th day,
Na-file nila.
they did not file. They adopted the second mode, where at least a third of the members of the House signed their fourth resolution. That supersedes everything. Because,
Hindi na pupunta sa Justice Carpio.
yeah, hindi na. Kasi that's already the approved. So, they did not violate the...
So played by the book, basically.
Yeah, they played by the book.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
At meron din clear precedence.
yeah, clearly the Estrada case. It just went
Right.
straight, no? So, and the Francisco case, that's involving former Chief Justice Davide, says that the 1 year bar rule starts when the complaints are received by the Committee on Justice. And the plenary has 10 session days. If you count the session days in December,
Right,
there are very few because it's December.
right.
So but calendar
Kaya
days,
na-delay siya over.
yeah, if
na-carry
you
over,
base
yeah.
it on calendar days, then of course it will be longer than 10 days. But the Constitution says session days.
Session days.
So,
So because December, medyo natakalan.
Yeah.
Hindi
So
na.
December.
if you are the defense, medyo you're in a dark place.
yes, because you put all your eggs on one basket practically on the 1 year bar rule.
Yeah.
Eh biglang
Nawala.
nawala because they complied with the 10-day rule pala. 10 session days. On the 10th session day, the fourth complaint was submitted with the signatures. So that automatically superseded everything.
So yung sahig dun sa mga nagtutulak ng dismissal ay nawala. There was no longer any floor.
Yes, so, well, and so ang mangyari dito, let's say we cross over to the 20th Congress, we have the impeachment court there, and if the Senate, despite all of this, dismisses
Yeah.
the impeachment complaint, akyatan niya sa Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court will now rule whether there was compliance with the 10-session day rule.
Justice, before we go to the other part, I'm sure Sir Ronald also has point of view and the questions. Just for the purpose of people who are not very familiar, why would the 1 year rule be such a central strategy, if not basically the only legal strategy? I mean, it's not like Fortune's firm is
Yes,
necessarily third rate.
Yes.
So why were they so banking on it? What was the idea there?
Well, because if the evidence is overwhelming
Right.
that all these pays are fake,
Fictitious,
sila Mary Grace Piatos, si Shell Jokno, andun pa,
Marian Rivera.
Arian Rivera.
Wala ka, Sir Ronald,
Richard
no?
Villarreal, wala.
Bakit wala ka rin, Sir Ronald? I'm disappointed.
So if all of these are fake, then you have to find another way. And they thought that the 1 year bar rule applied.
Because what is their count?
Because in the interview of Secretary General, who's the Secretary, Velasco,
Yeah.
of the House, the interview with Karen Davila, Velasco admitted that he sat on it because the congressman asked him to wait because they're filing a fourth complaint. But if you base it on the calendar days, the 10 days already, more than 10 days
Passed,
already
yeah.
elapsed. But it says 10 session days. And in December, there are very few session days. Umabot ng January or February. Kasi they came back
Right.
only February now, or late January. So, but the prosecution in their reply laid out the number of days. And if that's correct, that entire defense of Sara collapses. And so she has to she has to answer now those allegations that all of these people who pays are fake. But she already deemed to have admitted those allegations because she did not deny the allegations specifically. She did not say this Mary Grace Piatos, okay, I wrote that, but because I used aliases and the real names are here, I put it in the
Redacted.
in the vault, and COA has a copy of that. That should have been the answer, no? Because that's the rule.
Yeah.
But she did not respond that way. Did you put that in her answer? So the rule is you are deemed to have admitted those allegations if you didn't deny it specifically under oath.
I see a lot of parallel with the ICC. We'll discuss later yung jurisdiction na lang i-question mo kasi ganun. Or, di ba? Like, it's very similar.
Yeah, it's similar to
He will
the
not
ICC.
continue to commit crimes kaya bigyan ng
Yeah.
interim release. We'll discuss
Kasi
later on. Yeah.
President Duterte admitted under oath before the
So,
House.
mas malaki pa yung problema ni Tico.
I organized the death squad. I
I'm sorry,
ordered the
Lord,
killing.
Yeah.
Wala siyang lusot doon
Wala siyang lusot
So the
doon,
only is jurisdiction. Ganito rin kay Sara.
Yun nga, I'm seeing a parallel, parang Kaufman
Yeah.
strategy.
Pero-
Sa ibang ICC, yung public statements mo can be used.
Yeah, yari ka.
No, and yung rules of self-incrimination doesn't apply there.
I want to ask you, Sir Ronald, like, from the House of Rep, what is your understanding na were they conscious about these 10 session days, about this one-year rule? Like, kasi we were frustrated ang delayed nung House. What was going on there? Were they aware na pwede sila questioning sa technicalities later on?
Pwedeng hindi lahat sila aware doon.
Ah, right.
Merong aware.
Meron aware.
nagbibilang,
Yeah, yeah.
No? Dahil meron naman dun mga magagaling eh. Hindi naman
Right.
lahat sila ay house show eh. So merong mga nagbibilang.
Yeah.
Dahil sa ganung klaseng technicality. Tapos meron na mga precedent cases eh.
Yun nga.
Yeah.
No? Very conscious sila dyan eh.
I think the lawyers who prepared the fourth complaint were aware of the 10th session days.
Right.
So they really complied with
Meticulous
it.
sila, yeah.
So that's it. The problem is that Sara relied on jurisdiction, that the one-year
Similar
bar
with
rule.
the ICC
Bumagsak
style,
yun. Tapos na. That's the big problem. So ang gagawin nila, they'll try to bring this to the well, if the allies of Sara will still vote to dismiss despite all of this, the prosecution will go up to the Supreme Court. And the issue will be, has the one-year bar rule been breached? And of course, it's clear it was not breached. So I expect the Supreme Court to say the Constitution says 10 session days, and on the 10th day of the session, the fourth complaint was submitted, signed by more than 1/3. So that supersedes all those previous complaints. That's in the Constitution. So,
Pero Justice, yung isang invoke ng mga pro-dismissal ay continuity. Hindi
well,
pwede mag-continue.
yeah, that's the other one, but mukhang mahina yan because I was chair of the Senate Electoral Tribunal. And in the case of Zubiri, there was a electoral protest.
Right.
And
This is the Pimentel
Yeah.
Zubiri one, right? Yeah.
and then on the third year, there was another election. In other words, there was another Senate election for the remaining 12, and but the electoral protest continued
Yes.
because the Senate is a continuing body. So the electoral protest of Coco Pimentel continued even if there were already midterm elections, a new set. So it shows that all this non-legislative work of the Senate continues.
Right.
So that's very clear. And of course, I think 1 year before the end of the 6th year, Zubiri resigned and accepted.
Yes.
So that's why,
And blamed me.
yeah.
Can you give us a backstory to that whole Zubiri?
In the US bigla tinawagan ng ABS-CBN. Oh, may press con dito si Mig Zubiri. No?
Inaway ka.
Blame ka dahil tinakot mo raw siya, kaya siya nag-resign.
No shoot.
Oh, wow. Ang
No
lakas mo
shoot.
pala.
Yeah, so sabi ko, how can a small-time cabinet secretary force a sitting senator to resign?
This is before your AK-47s were discovered or after, Sir Ronald?
Press siya, sinising niya ako.
I didn't know that
Wow, wow.
backstory. No shoot.
Sinising niya ako.
So that means may power ang executive over legislative. I think we can connect the dots, Sir Ronald.
So, but that's very clear. That's
That
very
was a good
clear
tidbit,
that the non-legislative work of the Senate continues.
Yeah.
The continuity, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
very clear. So I think,
Very strong na kasi yung evidence nun kaya Senator Zubiri. Kaya nag-resign na siya.
Ganyan kasimple lang.
yeah, I was chair of that, and
Uy, Mark, come on, join us. Come straight, yeah. Ayan, we have the man in the house. And Sir Ron, matuwa ka na. Kasama ka na sa
One of
Sir.
those podcasters na
Eh,
kumikita.
Yeah. Dumaan na yung kumikita. Yung hindi kumikita nandito.
Pero nagbabayad ng tax.
Yun lang. Double tax. Yeah. No. I'll go to Sir Ronald and Mark, then go back to you, Justice Carpio again. Before we even talk about 20th Congress and the Supreme Court, I want us to kind of sum up what the heck happened under Cheese Escudero so that we understand what are the stakes in terms of who will be the next Senate President if he's still going to be there. Because si Cayetano is already saying, I'm pretty happy.
Nagpapatawag na siya ng session ng 20th Congress eh.
Right.
Diba? Sa July 29, that's a new...
So he's assuming he'll be the Senate President.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, oo.
The presumption is there.
Mas presumption siya kaya sa'yo.
That's a high bar, Sir Ronald. That's a very high bar. No. Sige, I'll go with Mark. I mean, Mark, the wisdom of, not so straight, but the wisdom of the vlogger, our former senatorial candidate. If you were to sum up yung ginawa ni Cheese in the 19th Congress, and ito, like, anong pag-intindi mo from what you can gather? Because a lot of people are confused. Before our legal luminary clears the air for us, we, the mortals, should understand what we couldn't understand, right?
Siyempre, yung iba tinitingnan from Feb pa lang, tapos nung start nung buwan, tapos hanggang umabot sa ngayon. So parang dinidribble, inuusog talaga. Siguro to give, para pagbigyan yung mga DDS na senators na kasama doon. Pero yun nga, lahat naman ng naririnig, everyone sa vlog naman is saying na Escudero might be doing this so he could stay in power, so he could stay at Senate President. At papagbigyan yung malaking block ng mga senador na ano. At the expense, syempre, ng Constitution na kumbaga, hindi nasusunod yung dapat mangyari pagdating sa impeachment.
Is it obvious, do you think, to an average voter to look at it and parang medyo namumuliti ka?
Ano tingin mo yung
Yeah.
pakiramdam ng mga karamihan
Exactly.
tao sa lahat na nangyayari? Ito ba ay tumatama sa Senado? Tumatama kay Cheese Escudero? Yung ganito. Parang sinasabi kasi nila Cheese, wala namang popular
Clamor.
Clamor.
Oo.
Sinasabi niya. From your vantage point, meron ba?
Definitely yung mga gustong matuloy yung impeachment, lahat sila galit kay Cheese, lahat sila sinisisi si Cheese. Pero yung
Average person, yeah.
Pero yung average na ano, parang masyadong technical, masyadong
Exactly,
magulo.
yun nga yung
Merong
isip
mga
ko.
remand, merong mga hindi na naiintindihan ng ordinary ano eh. Ang daming mga ibang issue na lumalabas, hindi siya masyadong mga nalalagay sa likod yung issue ng impeachment at nakakalito din kasi hindi maintindihan eh. Ano bang ano eh. Kumbaga gusto pa ba ng palasyo matuloy ito? Gusto pa ba ni kumbaga iba yung sinasabi ng pangulo, iba yung sinasabi ng mga ano, tapos yung mga senador maririnig mo din. Yung iba parang natatakot din, playing safe din. So sa ordinaryong tao parang hindi na ganun kaano eh. Hindi na nung Feb nung una nilang final yung impeachment doon mainit
Nagkaroon
lahat,
ng
Oo,
upsurge.
pero ngayon habang tumatagal kung ang goal nila is pahupain yung ano sa impeachment medyo ganun yung nangyayari kaya
So ang sinasabi mo is, aside dun sa mga tao na gusto talang invested sa accountability and all of that, yung ibang tao parang naumay na or na-confused na lang, ay wala na, parang hindi sila nagkakaroon ng strong stance dahil sa cloud of confusion and all of that.
Oo eh. At saka ang dami ng ibang issue na nangyari, ang dami ng ibang ano. So, hindi na yun yung top priority nila. Nangyari pa yung sa ICC ni Digong. So medyo mas
Overwhelming.
yun pa yung mas fresh sa isip nila kaysa din doon sa ano.
Okay, just I want to go back to thank you for that, Mark. No, again, that's of course not your opinion. That's your understanding of what could be the kind of a street opinion. Justice, do you also have that worry na baka part of this is just muddying the water, poisoning the well ang tawag ko dyan? Minsan, di ba, if you cannot win an argument, you just burn down the house, right? Guguluhin mo yung usapan hanggang mga tao maumay na lang. Justice, is that also your rate? And what should we do to push back against that, na nanggugulo lang sila para mawala ng ganang tao?
Well, I think the strategy of the group of VP Sara is to, I think they thought really that the 1-year bar rule was breached. That's why they were very strong on this. Remember Bato, Senator Bato.
Batorni.
Yeah.
Bato.
Made that motion. No?
Right.
And they were so sure that there was a violation because if you look at it, matagal inupuan talaga, and they relied on the interview of
Velasco.
Kay
Karen Davila,
kay
yeah.
Karen Davila. And when I was watching that interview, sabi ko, wow, inaamin niya na inupuan nila.
Oh, yeah,
no?
yeah.
But I think somebody, whoever that guy was, who was preparing was counting the session days, and they beat the deadline.
Right.
So, and if that is correct, the entire theory of the lawyers of VP Sara collapses.
Yeah.
And so, what will they do now? Muddy the issue further.
Yeah.
So, but we should be careful that this is now they're trying to remedy a very bad situation, to correct a very.
Were you surprised by how much ping pong whatever happened here with Cheese, all the remand, all the return, and all of this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the Senate is also, even if it's an impeachment court, it's still a political body.
Yeah. So
And
I'll ask
I
Sir
think,
Ronald about that too. Yeah.
Bato made a motion to remand, to include everything, to transfer the jurisdiction back to the House. But others wouldn't go with that, so they tried to, okay, we will use the term remand, but there is no dismissal. We are not terminating the case. And we are requiring VP Sara to file an answer. So it's not a remand. Actually, you're just asking the House to give certify that the 1-year bar rule was not breached.
Actually, nag-backpedal sila a few days
That's
back.
what I'm saying.
Oh.
Ang daming backpedal.
Yung person ng Senate, sabi, it was just referral.
Yes.
Hindi daw remand. At medyo sinisisi yung media for spinning yung remand. Sabi na, referral lang ito. So, nagalit yung mga media. Kami pa may kasalanan ngayon.
Medyo Trumpian yung strategy. Yung galit pa siya sa journalist for asking the questions.
Si Alan Peter ang gumamit ng word na remand. Nobody knows that word sa mga ganyan klase.
Yun nga, like just is where, I mean, honestly, it looks preposterous. Like, what the heck are these people?
Ngayon ni Alan Peter na we could, but should we? Ganun siya tayo.
Tsaka yung bago magpalit ng isip si Bato, attorney Bato, baka gusto na natin i-accommodate yung argument.
You know, when that motion was approved to remand it, Bato was jubilant because the word remand, he thought it was sent back. But then, when they later on they realized that there was a condition that the case was not terminated.
Hindi siya dismissal.
It's not a dismissal. Sara has to answer. Tapos na, sabi ko, wala yun. That's not remand.
Very classic yung sagot ni Bato Tinatanggap ko yung amendment ni Senator Alan Peter. Pero baka pwedeng ipaliwanag.
At least, agree ako. Pero ano ulit yan? So Mark, okay lang. Kasi yung mga senator mismo ay nagugulo din sa sarili nila. So I think we are in a good company.
Para sa kanila, para sa base nila, parang small victory na yun. Parang yung optics nun para sa kanila.
Pero umasa talaga sila Kasi binabash ako sa, hindi magkaroon ng trial yan. Gumaganon sila, confident na sila.
Sabi ni Senator Grace po, Di ba it's just a nice way of saying dismiss?
Binoking niya, di ba? Binoking niya. Thesaurus
Pero ang nakakatuwa doon, yung kay Bato, I approve. No?
Pero
Okay,
paki-explain.
Oo, amendment. Pero baka pwede ba ipaliwanag? Ano ibig sabihin nun?
Kasi guided siya eh. Pero hindi niya maintindihan on his own level. No, but Sir Ronald,
Nung selling natin, sobrang galing.
yun nga, sobrang galing. I want to understand the politics of it before we go to the legal aspect of the Supreme Court angle to this and the 20th Congress. No, Sir Ronald, like,
The politics of it is the Senate presidency.
no, I know. So, is there like a solid Duterte block na 6 ba? Or
Yes,
12 or
at
30?
least
What are we
six.
looking at here?
At least 6. Pero
At least six,
meron pang iba na swing, na mas swing papuntang Duterte. No?
Can we name names?
Pero kaya nga, yung anim na
Right.
yan, gusto nila mangyari, huwag masimulan.
Right.
Dahil pag nasimulan, baka itong mga swing,
Mag-swing
on the
back.
other side.
Yeah.
Dahil lalabas yung bank accounts, lalabas yung COA reports,
Right.
lalabas yung testimony nila Las Cañas, etc. etc. Imagine mo yung dami ng lalabas na testimony tsaka kwan.
Yeah.
Ibig sabihin, yung mga mag-a-acquit, kung merong gusto mag-acquit doon sa swing votes sa Senate, ika-calculate nila yung impact sa kanila.
Oo.
Kung lalabas itong ebidensyang ito. Kaya the best sa kanila ay huwag matuloy.
Yung nga, which, di ba, ito yung 11 nung envelope, di ba? A lot of them never got elected back again. Na-burn sila eh. So we have a precedence of, if you're seen as shielding a brazen abuse of power, you will pay a political
Pero
cost.
iba pa ito eh. Yung sa envelope kasi, wala naman naman yung envelope.
Yeah, that was a dud.
Ito ang
That was a
dami.
dud.
Dami
Yeah.
evidence,
Ito
di ba?
medyo isang kaibigan na merch, di ba? May merch pa siya eh. So Justice, I want to go back to you again. Were you surprised by the, some would say, brazenness, the preposterous nature of the legal acrobatics that they played? Because, okay, I agree with you na even si Batorni ay na-confuse. So kung anong nilabas, and then you were forwarding me that, sabi, hindi. But honestly, I'm not sure how sincere Senate President was when he was saying, but I felt there was really an obfuscation there going on as a matter of strategy. Or as a matter of keeping things. Kasi, di ba Sir Ronald, sabi ni Lito Banayo, talagang Lito nga, master stroke daw, bright boy si Cheese Escudero kasi he balanced different.
Pero kanya eh, campaign manager ni Chisho eh.
He balanced different, daw. Wala na ba tayong law of malpractice sa punditry? Like, parang medyo huwag ka na mag-comment pag medyo ganyan kasablay yung track record mo. Diba, just, like, as someone who has, sabi nga ni Zubiri, I've seen strange things in my life. Was this stranger than the things you've seen in the past?
Well, I think, you're correct, Ronald, that this is driven by politics in the Senate, the election of a Senate presidency. And Chis is right there.
Right.
He's trying to hold the people on both sides to
keep them
vote
happy.
for him. So, I think the remand made Bato and his group happy. It also made...
Even if hindi na naintindihan. Okay na.
And I said, wow, that's good because it's not really a remand.
Not really.
So, and of course, he also satisfied the other side that there will be no dismissal. Kasi nakalagay doon, not without dismissing the case.
Still retains the jurisdiction over the case.
So, both sides were happy, at least at that point.
And then biglang lumitaw itong Cheese Jr., Sir Ronald, yung model na attorney. Who is this guy? Yung spokesman ng Senate trial. Kasi minsan parang, wait lang, you're not helping Cheese. Like, you're out-cheesing Cheese, di ba? Is that...
Siya yung binanatan ng media eh.
Oo.
Sabi nga, it wasn't a remand, it was a referral.
Who is this? Like, what is your... I mean, obviously, he's a junior lawyer, whatever.
Ang remand ba, Justice? Meron bang kanyan? Legal talaga na
Well-
term? Anong ibig sabihin
Yeah.
ng ordinary people?
Well, normally, when, let's say, the Supreme Court says we are remanding this case back to the CA or to the RTC, itapon
Ni-return mo
lahat.
talaga, yeah.
Then they will decide.
To the lower court.
That's out of our jurisdiction. Yeah. In other words, you decide it. It's out of our docket already.
Yeah.
Ito, hindi. Sinabi without dismissing. And then summons will be issued. No, it's still in the docket of the
exactly.
impeachment
Yun nga
court. Normally, when siya remand, binalik mo lahat. Hindi ka na, you will not act on it anymore. Katulad yung kay kay Laila de Lima.
Binalik sa, kasi may fault daw yung
And inayos. So,
That's remand.
that's remand.
So this is different eh.
Ito, actually, it was just a request for a certification.
So what is the certification drama all about?
Well,
Can you explain that? Oo.
Because yun ang basis ng motion ni Bato, that the one-year bar rule was breached. So they said, okay, certify, prove to us that you did not breach the one-year bar rule. Binigyan agad nila ng certification eh.
Walang
Because
problema yan.
they knew the 10 session days. Pinag-aralan nila, they were prepared for that, the way I look at it. Kaya sabi nila, they already said, no, we did not violate.
Pero hindi siya prepared for Karen Davila interview yung isa. Prepared siya sa technical.
But everybody looked at that Karen Davila interview and here is the Secretary General saying, inupuan namin.
Yeah, medyo self-incriminating siya. Yeah.
But when you look at the calendar, iba yun eh, session day.
Right.
And this is December. Walang nag-session pag December.
Mark, since you're models of Manila, pwede mo ulitin. Sino tong attorney na ito? Kasi si Bukoy, galit na galit sa kanya. Mag-fortune ka na lang, huwag ka na dyan. I mean like, sino ba to? Nandun ba siya sa models of Manila, models of QC?
Hindi ko na familiar.
Akala naman, Sir Ronald. Sunday, magpakabay tayo, Sir Ronald. Models of, ano siya, models of QC, Pasig. Sino ba yan? Maganda yung kilay niya, in fairness. Natural. Natural.
Hindi na kailangan ng microblading.
Tapos kagabi yung mami ko, uy, ganda na skin ni Bukoy ah. Ganda ng hair niya. Ano na ito, no? Medyo, Justice na mga may... Vicky Bello, Games pala, Olympics. So, a resident expert, models of Manila.
Hindi ako familiar din talaga.
Sino siya?
Nakita talaga nung
Parang 200 lang followers niya sa Twitter. Sabi ko, who is this? Saan ba kinukuha yan? Wala bang gusto kumuha ng trabaho niyan, Sir Ronald? Kaya kung sino-sino kinuha nila?
Siyempre, ang gusto nila yung
Naghanap buhay.
bata,
Model.
suicide bomber, yung walang political future.
Oh my God.
Walang political future.
You never know. Baka DDS ano na yan.
Parang presidential spokesperson.
Yeah.
Meron bang presidential spokesperson
Sa bagay.
na nanalo as senator? Di ba?
Oo nga, no.
So, why mo to take the blows?
Actually, punching bag ka.
You have to defend the president. Kailangan mo magsinungaling para sa mahabang ilong ng mga presidential spokesperson. Para mga Pinocchio yan.
Parang Harry Roque ang pinag-usapan natin or si Panelo. I'm confused.
Hindi ka madali, yung spokesperson, talagang ang buhay mo para sa principal. Kahit mali yung principal, you have to defend
suicide
him.
bomber ka nga. Yeah, exactly.
Ganun din sa Senate. Kailangan depensa mo yung Senate kahit mali.
Kaya walang gusto kumuha nung trabaho.
Lalo na, you're representing 24 separate republics.
Right.
No? Mas madali pa nga yung presidential spokesperson dahil isa lang yung represent mo. Ito, 24. No? At,
Parang hindi. Yung DDS parang isang republic lang sila, di ba?
Hindi.
May kanya-kanya din ano eh.
Maraming crackpots doon, di ba?
Oo.
Imagine mo kung ikaw yung spokesperson.
No. Parang ngayon nirealize ko, actually, ayoko na yung trabaho na yan pag na-opera na. No, Justice, what is your read of yung accusation? Let's talk about Bukoy also, because, we had other legal friends here who know Attorney Bukoy from their work back in the day, or si Dina De Leon, for instance, his mom worked also with him daw. So, what is your read of the spokesman of the Congress? Is he doing a proper job explaining this and also calling out yung supposed lawyering na ginagawa nung mga model natin kaibigan, mga Kilay Boys. Kilay Boys! Tinatawag natin Kilay Boys sa Senado. Hindi naman tayo ma-libel, Justice. No?
Si Boy Dila.
Ayan tayo, Boy Dila. Boy Sili pa rin ako.
Si Boy Culto.
Boy Sili, mamaya. No, Justice. Because actually, before that, I want to understand, why is Bato the chief legal strategist of them? Hindi ko maintindihan bakit hindi si Robin Hood, bakit hindi si Bongo, Why is Bato taking the...
Parang sinasagot mo yung sarili mo.
Yun nga eh.
Well, I think between Bato and
Bukoy.
Robin Hood, who would be a better sport?
Robin Hood! Robin Hood!
Di ba?
Di na natin sure.
Head ng chairman yun ako, ha?
Constitutional amendments!
Yeah.
I will go, Robin! Di ba sabi ni Robin, huwag natin sayangin yung ating talino. Wag natin sayangin yung ating talino sa ganito.
Si Marc Oleta, may alam.
Yun, pwede yun. Si Oleta magte-take over.
over.
Pwede mag-take over, hindi na ba attorney?
May alam yun, no?
Legal luminary ba si Marc Oleta? Justice?
Well, I know he's a lawyer.
That's a good answer. He's a
Hindi,
lawyer.
pero kung yung represent mo, the one-eyed man is king.
Sa bagay. Buti nga one eye. In the valley of...
Ako nga drop out pero itapat mo ako sa mga yun.
Alam mo, Sir Ronald, parang ikaw yung Bill Gates ng mga analyst. Hindi ako graduate, pero talo ko kayong lahat, di ba?
Drop out ako para kung pwede humarap sa kaso. Haharap ako. Tatalunin ko yung mga yun.
Suicide squad ko. So, Justice, going back to you, let's just forget whatever Ronald said. Okay, thank you. Noted. Noted. Sir Justice, anong basa mo kay Bukoy so far? It was kasi purong batang kinukuha Kilay Boys si Bukoy, ganda ng kutis, di ba? Napansin mo kagabi, ganda ng kutis.
Well, I think he's doing okay.
He's doing okay.
He's doing okay. He's addressing the issues frontally.
Yeah.
So, he's okay. He's expressing the correct position of the House.
And do you think his selection also made strategic sense given his background as a litigator, etc.? What is your sense with?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, in a collegial way.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not here to ban at anyone.
Yeah, he's a good choice. I mean, he's not doing any damage to the position of the House.
That's always good.
Yeah.
That's always good.
Yeah, he's okay. He's trying to articulate the position. Okay naman. So, he's doing okay. I have nothing against what he's saying.
He's okay. He's like, what is it, Donald Trump? Nothing wrong. Nothing. It's good. It's good. Nothing wrong. No, but okay. Ganito na. What should be the communication strategy of the prosecution heading now? Now let's talk about the 20th Congress. So, medyo last minute pumasok si Attorney Bukoy, di ba? So I think he's warming up. He's building up. So what should be the line of attack communication-wise?
Well, I think it's there in the reply of the House that they should explain why there was no violation of the one-year ban. Very clear eh.
Very clear.
Kasi the moment babagsak yung the entire theory of the defense of VP Sara will collapse. Kasi they put all their eggs in that basket and turns out that there's a big hole in that basket.
So again, like just for people who are not familiar, what is the one-year ban?
Well,
what is the count? What is the end?
The one-year ban is in the Constitution that only one impeachment
Can be filed within
can be filed in 1 year.
Right.
And the reckoning date per the decision of the Supreme Court is when the impeachment complaint is referred to the Committee on Justice.
Right.
In this case, there were 3 impeachment complaints. None was
Move
referred
forward,
to the Committee on Justice. And ang sabi ng ni VP Sara, the lawyers VP Sara, the 10-day period for the plenary of the House to refer lapsed already. Right. So since it lapsed, you have to count already the 1-year bar.
Hindi nila nabilang yung 10
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the
That
Constitution says 10 session days.
So how could they not know that, the Fortune people and all?
Well, because they relied on the admission of Section Velasco. Even me, I said, wow, they violated.
Medyo alanganin niya.
So, but for me, even assuming that there was a breach of the
1 year.
10
10 sessions,
days, no?
yeah.
Let's assume that Velasco sat on the impeachment complaints. The issue will be, is the negligence of Velasco, or even willful lack of Velasco, binding on the plenary? That will be a dangerous doctrine to adopt, that the negligence or willful act of one
One stop.
Hindi naman siya member of Congress,
Exactly.
can bind the entire Congress. Problema yan. That's a very dangerous doctrine. So,
Liyato ko lang
empleyado ka lang, ang gagawin ng iba, pag may dumating na, iupuan na nila, tapos
Suicide
na.
bomber.
So,
Oo nga, no?
I don't think...
Para ma-violate yung buong plan.
I mean, it will bind the entire house.
Yeah.
So, I think, even assuming that Section Velasco was negligent, I don't think that will bind
Right.
the
That's an interesting
plenary.
point, yeah.
So
Hindi pa
I was
lumabas ng-
thinking
Very
that
good
will be
point.
the issue. But when I read the prosecution's reply, session
May
days,
nagbabantay pala.
wala palang violation.
Right.
So, meron pa sila. Even assuming there was a violation, you cannot make that negligent act of one
An
employee binding on the entire plenary. So, yun.
That's
So, matibay yung position ng House.
Matiyo.
At isa lang ang pinagbotohan ng House.
Oh,
Na complaint.
yeah, because
para hindi nadalhin doon sa Justice
Yeah,
Committee.
kasi may-
Para diretso na.
Yeah.
there is
Consolidated na.
there's already precedents.
Right.
Yung kay ERAP, may complaints, impeachment complaints. Dumating yung 1/3 resolution, yun ang nag-prevail.
Kahit binabanatan ni Cheese si Justice Carpio.
Pinabanatan ba?
Well, sinabi na,
I mean, mas magandang kilay mo sa kanya.
well,
Better skin, better...
kasi sinabi ni Senate President Cheese na during the time of si
Corona ba to?
Hindi,
Ay,
si that lady ombudsman, si
Merceditas Gutierrez? Yeah.
Gutierrez,
Yeah.
the Senate did not proceed with the impeachment.
Right.
Hindi rin ako nag-complain. Bakit nagko-complain
selective ka
ako
daw.
ngayon? Well, first of all, hindi nag-proceed yun dahil nag-resign si Merceditas.
Oh, she resigned.
She resigned. And secondly,
Kasama ka ako sa biniblame doon.
Parang,
secondly,
Sir Ronald, marami kang fans.
biniblame ka rin ha.
Saan yung bulletproof mo dyan?
And at that time,
Yeah, I remember that. I was in
think
the
that was
Congress.
2009 or 2010. I was already in the Supreme Court.
Yes.
How can I, a sitting justice of the Supreme Court, complain if they did not
Yeah.
proceed with the
Medyo,
impeachment?
medyo
I
tagilid.
mean, first of all, we do not comment on the actions of the Senate,
Senate.
because first of all, they might be
Separation of
questioned
powers,
before
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So, and we never question on political developments because we're in another branch of the government. So, nobody would have made any comment among the members of the justices for two reasons. It's not proper for us to comment on those things. And second,
She resigned.
that might be brought to the Supreme Court. In the case of Senate President Cheese, he keeps on commenting on matters pending before the impeachment court.
Right.
And the rule should be they should not
Right.
comment anymore because they're judges. They're judges. Sasabihin niya na pwede naman yan i-file yung motion na yan, pwede naman botohan, they can vote against it or vote in favor of it.
Hindi ikaw ang sasalita dapat to.
Yeah, you should not be telling telling the parties to do these things.
Pwede siya mag-defense lawyer din ni Sara para matapos na tong... I mean, pinapahirapan niya yung buhay niya eh. No, I mean, just is going back to this, nahawa ba sila ng Batorni virus? Or is there an algorithm they're downloading? Kasi minsan, Cheese was never a legal luminary, but sometimes it's like sounding like this is like a downgrade even by Cheese standard.
Ano sa'yo mo? Cheese is a legal luminary.
He's not a legal luminary. He's more like you, Sir Ronald. Ikaw, Sir Ronald, just a reminder, fresh memory, what happened with Mercedita Gutierrez and the Corona cases? Kasi di umano, may kinalaman yung isang minor cabinet member.
She resigned.
Di umano.
She resigned.
She resigned.
Wala akong alam na may pinakita sa kanya na problema sa salad. Wala akong alam.
Wala kang alam dyan. Wala tayong alam dyan.
Walang ganon.
Walang ganon. Parang ayaw mo sumagot bigla sa Ronald. Sige na nga, let's take this away.
Actually, sagot yun.
Yeah, I know. It's parang yung mga tanong ko na may sagot na, pero kunyari tanong. Parang I'm just using you as a foil. Last Mark, before we go to 20th Congress, just to wrap it up before we go to ICC.
People resign kasi dahil pag pinakita sa kanila yung mga properties nila na wala sa kanilang salary.
Biglang nalinawan sila. What future awaits them? Mga ganun.
Not specifically si Ombudsman.
No, hindi umano.
In general.
Pero paano malaman yung mga hindi na-declare? Paano malaman? Meron kang intel operations ba?
Triangulate mo lang yun. Sa NRA, sa LTO,
right.
sa lahat. Triangulate mo.
Sa YouTube earnings.
Gano'ng karami sa Bureau of Immigration, gano'ng karami ang trips mo.
Right.
Gano'ng karami ang properties mo, tsaka sa iyong mga kamag-anak. Gano'ng karami ang mga kotse mo at yung mga kamag-anak. Ita-triangulate mo lang yan. Kung ikaw na sa gobyerno, sa executive, madaling gawin.
That's not a warning at all to some of our friends. Mark, last point. What is your read of Bukoy versus Cheese Jr.? Do you think, how is it coming out in terms of public opinion? Kailangan ba na dalawang bata ilagay nila, face value? Kasi I heard na they might also get a female spokesperson for the House. Baka daw
Dalawa pa sila. Parang
I even suggested some people, if ever.
parang nakakagulo, ang dami ng spokesperson eh.
Si Topacio rin, PDP laban.
Yun yung the best.
I was worried. You will say something the best.
Siya na talaga si...
Topacio.
Na-appoint na si...
Incomparable.
PDP laban naman.
Appointed na siya?
Oh!
Kaya lang tumapat kay Attorney Topacio, si ex-Attorney Gadon.
Yon. Ay,
Na-appoint ba siya?
si Gadon.
Ex-Attorney Gadon. Ex-Attorney dahil na-disbar na.
Pero pwede ka pa rin maging spokesman. I mean, he still has the legal
Topacio
right.
na-appoint ba?
Spokesperson.
Topacio, yeah.
Si Topacio ng PDP laban.
PDP
Ah, PDP laban.
Yeah. Pero makikialam yun. The ratings are... Ikaw, Mark, kailangan ng face value versus face value. Kailangan ba ng what is face value nowadays if it's needed?
Hindi.
As a resident
yung
aesthetic analyst.
Yung mas importante yung conviction ng
Yun, no?
spokesperson Na parang alam mong he really means kung ano yung sinasabi niya.
Parang si Batorni, talagang guided.
si isa Congress, si Attorney
Bukoy.
Yeah. Parang talaga
sincerity.
Sincerity palaban talaga.
Authority rin.
And syempre, importante yung mga sound bites.
Yun nga yung sound bites para maalala
kailangan
ko.
medyo din.
So, okay ka kay Yusek Claire Castro.
Malaking impact.
Wait! Saan galing yung Castro?
Hindi, nasabi kasi niya, yung mga spokesperson dapat. Diba?
Parang narinig ko, Sir Ronald, meron kang aesthetic commentaries din recently. Wala akong sinasabi na may kinalaman. Sir Ronald, bigla nagko-comment, bakit ganun yung puff ng Filipiniana ni ganito? Bakit yung hairstyle ni Bukoy ay medyo masyadong Gen Z?
Wala akong credibility sa fashion.
Siguro din
Reklaman ka na naman, Sir Ronald.
Sincerity, yung commitment doon. Tapos syempre yung husay din sa bardagulan. Kasi parang ganun din
Yun,
lumalabas.
bardagulan.
Oo, ganun na din nangyayari. So, makikita natin yung spokesperson kung effective ba o baka lalamunin din sila nung mga issue and habang nagpo-progress itong sa impeachment ni VP Sara.
Sir Ronald, going to...
Nung may nag-report sa akin para sa isang sa RRM, no? Yun yung sabi niya sa role ko bardagulan. Tapos yung ginagawa ko na, no?
Pinipigilan ka na.
Pinipigilan ka na. Yung mahirap to, nirecruit ka para particular.
Ang tawag dyan, Sir Ronald, Goldilocks. Not too hot, not too cold.
Ginagawa niya yung term. Be our Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, minus the Trump days.
Hindi ko makilala kung sino si Joe Rogan.
Ginugal mo talaga, no? Sino yan? No, Sir Ronald, I want to talk to you before we go to Justice Carpio because I want to understand also the Supreme Court side of this, if ever. But, Sir Ronald, malabo ba si Tito Soto? Kasi he's really sticking his neck out to be the next Senate President. And I think Cayetano coming in and saying, hindi, okay na yun si Cheese, okay na. Parang position pa nga siya doon sa trabaho ni Villanueva, di ba? Parang talagang lantaran na talaga, insider deal na ba to?
Sa Senate kasi, simple majority,
Yeah.
mapapaltan ka na So, hindi ganun kahirap katulad halimbawa sa Congress. Sa Congress kasi, mas ang crucial dyan, the President.
Right.
Kahit separate institution yan. No? In the real world, crucial dyan yung gusto ng Presidente. Dahil dyan nagsisimula impeachment no? Sa Congress. Sa Senate, babalansin mo yan eh. No? Babalansin mo yung 24 different republics. Ano bang gusto nila? Lalo na yung may mga blocks. Ito yung Duterte block. Ikalawa, babalansin mo dyan yung kanilang mga gusto. Yung chairmanships, yung insertions, yung lump sums. No?
The perks.
Hindi nag-exist. Hindi siya nag-exist.
Of course. Theoretical.
Theoretical lang yan. Tapos ikatlo, babalansin mo yung Malacanang.
Right.
Na ang sinasabi, wala siyang pakialam. No? Pero in the real world, again, meron. No? Sino ba yung preference ng Malacanang?
Ano bang mood ngayon ng Malacanang?
Tapos siyempre, panghuli, popular opinion.
Yeah.
Diba? Mahirap ka naman maglagay ng isang Senate President. May isa kasing senator gusto maging Senate President, pero nakulong. No? Nakulong. So, yung image naman ng Senate, magbabago kung yung Senate President mo nakulong for plunder. No? So,
Na-convicted pa rin ngayon.
So, mahalaga yung public opinion din. So, yun yung mga binabalanse mo. At the very least, 3.
So yung Malacanang, what's the latest mood now? Conflict avoidant, risk-taking, kasi parang every week tayo nagmi-meet, iba yung basa natin sa Malacanang.
Ang pumili naman kay Cheese ay administration as Senate President. Whether they are masaya o hindi is another thing.
Right.
Ikalawa, si Soto ay kandidato ng administration.
Alyansa, yeah.
So, theoretically, palaya silang administration.
Exactly.
No? Pero, dahil may solid Duterte block na at least 6 na senador, ay hindi nila pwedeng hindi i-factor in yun. Yeah. So, pina-factor in nila yung 6 na yan. Lalo na, pareho silang kulang. At this point, kulang si Soto, kulang si Cheese. So, kung kulang ka, yung 6 na yan can be crucial. At yung 6 na yan will dictate terms.
What could be the strategy of Soto? Kasi clearly yung positioning niya will alienate the
Tingin
Team
ko,
DS.
tinapon na niya yan. Hindi na niya kliyente yung 6 na yan.
Kaya
So,
how can he win over the rest?
Mag-rely siya, tingin ko, dun sa administration. Dahil ang magiging palaman dyan ni Cheese, negative sa kanya, kung magke-cater siya dyan sa 6, baka magalit naman yung administration.
Which is why it's an important factor.
And a lot of senators, ang term na ginagamit nila, hindi naman pwedeng labanan ng City Hall. Ibig sabihin, tatanungin nila in so many ways, ano bang gusto ng presidente? Ano bang gusto ng Malacanang? Sino ba ang gusto?
So,
kaya baka doon nag-realize.
Sir, takot ang Republic sa City Hall? Hindi ko maintindihan. I'm playing with the metaphors here.
Pero may ano yan eh.
Sige, Justice.
There's a reason for that. Right. Alam mo.
Parang bakit nag-sign language? Gusto mo i-text sa akin? Mark, are you surprised by these realities of our politics, our wonderful president, their influence?
Hindi, siguro din eh. Yung sa ibang senador din yung results din ng last elections. Lalo na yung mga mag-election sa 2028. Siguro iniisip din nila yun. If we don't go along dito sa ng mga Duterte, baka it might affect yung re-election ko sa 2028. So may ganung factor na din eh. Pero yun nga, it's nice to see Tito Sen na at least standing up kung saan yung tama, kung ano yung sa Constitution. Diba? Yun lang.
Itbulaga ka talaga, no? No, literally, nasa Itbulaga siya. Itbulaga siya eh. Our resident Soto expert. Buko Soto, Tito Soto, lahat ng Soto yata, expert ka eh.
Tama yung sabi ni Mark, dahil kasama rin kasi dyan sa 24 Republics, yung kanilang political calculation going into 2028. No? Lalo na kung wala masyadong pressure yung Malacanang. Malacanang kasi still has 3 years eh.
Yeah.
At huwag mo kalimutan yung controversy sa GAA, yung controversy sa budget, hindi lang House yan. Kasama dyan ng Senate. No?
Which Panfilo Lacson is raising now.
Yung mga lump sum na nire-raise ni Ping Lacson, bago siya pumasok sa 20th Congress. Exactly. Yung mga nakatagong pork barrel, yung mga insertions, no, yung mga perks, no? Kasama yan dyan sa usapin na yan. Dito. Sino ba ang magdi-deliver niyan? Sino ba ang magbibigay ng mga chairmanships? No? Kanino ba ako makikinabang in division of spoils? Yung mga unsaid.
Yeah. Ikaw, Justice, what's your read of this positioning? Like, with Cheese in charge, do you still see this trial moving forward in a direction that is reasonably reasonable, if I can put it that way? I mean, or do you think Senate presidency change might be one way to make sure we move in the right direction? What is your read?
Well, I think the trial will proceed, regardless of whoever is the Senate President, because the prosecution will always go to the Supreme Court, and I think the Supreme Court will say the trial has to proceed. Because that's in the Constitution, trial shall proceed forthwith. No? So, but of course, the politics in the Senate presidency will come in because Malacanang will want a certain position to be followed, or will favor a certain candidate who will do its bidding. And Malacanang has a lot of leverage. We know that while we have abolished the pork barrel, the president has actually become more powerful. Because remember, Ronald, when before the pork barrel, this was the mechanism before, they will put there that the member of Congress can recommend where that money will go. The Supreme Court declared that unconstitutional. So the president now has sole power to determine where that amount will go. And so everybody now will queue up.
Line up
and do the president's bidding. That's why President Duterte became very powerful.
Exactly.
Because the pork barrel was abolished, and now the only way the congressman can get a pork barrel is for the president, out of the goodness of his heart, to give it to him. That's why when the president said, I want the ABS-CBN franchise not to be renewed, they had to follow because it was an election year.
Yeah.
And everybody had to follow that.
It will hit them where it hurts.
Yeah.
Right. That's a very
And
good
when the
point.
president said, I want China to get the third telco, so they
Right.
passed the amendment to the Public Service Act. Because it was an election year.
Yes.
Justice Carpio, are you saying that Marcos Jr. should be more digong? We were scared he'll be Marcos Sr. Now we're saying, please be more digong. No, I'm just kidding. No, but basically you're saying theoretically, there is that leverage, except you have to exercise leverage for it to be
Yeah.
power, right?
Yes, kaya nga maganda na meron kang Ping Lacson ngayon. Si Ping kasi yung maliban pa sa hindi siya tumatanggap ng pork barrel, siya yung among all the other senators, siya yung nag-expose nung double
Insertions.
double insertions,
Yeah.
triple insertions, quadruple insertions, quintuple.
Okay, I think, Sara, people might get other ideas. Let's just stick to the double insertions.
So ang dami niya, no? In-expose niya yan. Kaya ngayon na nandyan siya, ay tingin ko kung nandun siya sa previous Senate, baka nabanatan niya itong gaan na ito.
Right, noon pa lang yan. Although binanatan niya as a private citizen.
Di ba, itong pag-zero budget, nanggaling yan sa Senado, ng PhilHealth.
Yeah.
Hindi yan House na.
Right.
Senador ang nag-propose niya. Hindi yung pag-zero ng PhilHealth.
So, going back to this justice, okay, so if anong kailangan i-expect ng tao sa 20th Congress in terms of yung calendar, in terms of what are the procedures we have to look at kasi may July 29, ano naman ulit yun? Yung kay Cheese? What does he want? Nahilo ako kay Cheese.
Para kung may continuity.
Exactly. So, what is the next hurdle, kumbaga?
Pero isang sinasabi
Yun
ni
nga.
Cheese ay theoretically, pwedeng i-dismiss by simple
Majority. Yeah, by the way, we have, thank you, Sir, for bringing that.
Pag ganyan, yung conviction kasi, or
Yeah, exactly.
2/3 yung pan eh.
Yeah. He said that if there is a motion to dismiss
Right.
by a
Simple
Senate
majority.
judge,
Oo.
not even by one of the parties. No? So,
Grabe, no?
well, because it's a matter of who has a majority vote. So, I think that's unconstitutional because the Constitution says trial shall proceed forthwith. So, ang gagawin if Bato makes a motion to dismiss and we need
we
only
can already
13
see
votes.
what's gonna happen. Yeah.
13 votes will approve that motion. Then prosecution will go up to the Supreme Court. The issue there is whether trial can be dispensed with in a motion to dismiss. Second, yung ground ng motion to dismiss, there was a breach of the one-year bar rule. Talagang totoo ba yan? So there are two questions. So I think the Supreme Court, based on the response of the Senate, will say there is no violation of the one-year ban rule. Kasi on the 10th session day, they were able to adopt the fourth resolution, the fourth impeachment. And I think the Supreme Court will also say the Constitution says trial shall proceed forthwith. That means you cannot file a motion to dismiss. So
So you're
babalik na
cautiously
naman.
optimistic. Wala silang lusot dyan in terms of killing this again. Yeah.
So the case will be remanded back
Oh, wow.
to the.
Ayan na naman tayo.
So it
Pero
will.
tunay na rin.
Tunay na rin.
So-
Hindi lang referred.
So ano yan? They will say now, okay, tuloy. And that's the next big hurdle there is. The prosecution will file a subpoena duces tecum on the bank accounts. I think that's the greatest
Yeah,
battle.
that's the
there.
crux.
And that requires only under the rules of the impeachment court, if there's a motion like that to open the bank accounts, the Senate President as presiding judge can rule on it or throw the issue to the impeachment court for voting.
Simple majority.
Yeah, simple majority.
Parang envelope na naman.
Oh,
So
wow.
that for me is the most crucial
Game changer.
Show me the
game
money
changer
trail.
because
Yeah.
after that, tapos ng boxing.
And Sara cannot resign, no? That's no longer an option.
No, she can resign if she wants.
She can.
Anytime.
Because that could be also one scenario.
Yeah.
If she, parang
Yeah.
may Mercedita
Pero
Gutierrez
pag nag-resign
basically.
siya, habang nangyayari yun, she will be greatly damaged.
Yun nga.
Lalo na sabi niya, bloodbath. No?
Ngayon, baby bath. Ngayon, baby bath.
Hindi, bubble bath.
Bawal.
So, if tutuloy talaga yung impeachment proceedings and there is a majority, 13 votes, to vote to open the bank account,
Yeah.
she better just resign, no?
Yun nga, you're also looking at, so we're looking at late July or August na to?
Kung mag-resign naman siya, ordinary citizen na siya, pwedeng pag kinasuhan siya ng plunder,
Yun lang.
unbailable yun.
Unavailable
Doon
yun ang
naman siya
problema.
pwede ma-checkmate.
Yun yung
Pwede siya
delikado.
ma-checkmate doon, actually.
Hindi ka na
Wala ka ng immunity and all of the, yeah. Kasi syempre, she'll try to resign to not be disqualified from running for office again if she were
ang isang plunder case sa isang korte, pwede rin buksan yung kanyang bank accounts.
Yeah.
Pwede rin mabuksan yun.
That's the other thing. Assuming that the impeachment fails, assuming that for one reason or another, the impeachment does not proceed. The Supreme Court said it cannot proceed, whatever. There is still the ombudsman
Yun lang.
who can file a criminal case for plunder. Yung pa rin. That's the other thing.
But calendar-wise, are we looking at August for the proper trial to come in terms of if ever the money trail issue or
Well, July, August.
August na, di ba?
August
Yeah,
na.
kaya nga, I want to also look at the calendar. Now, very quickly, Justice, the other side of this conversation is, and I saw the parallels, di ba? Jurisdiction naman ang kanyang question, ngayon naman interim release. What is your read of the whole interim release issue? Because I was with Attorney Christina also the other day and we were talking about it. Parang nag-backfire talaga. Kasi ang basa ko dito is, the prosecution team, parang, baka naman gusto nyo mag-apply kasi may interim release. I mean, it's just a matter of right? And then, maybe, totoo yung sinabi sa akin na I think Portugal kind of offered maybe in theory to host him. But the way na nilabas ng Kaufman side is like, done and dusted na yan, agree na sila, go na yan, boom, boom, boom. And that backfired, it looks like big time because if you look at the response of the prosecution team, they look pissed off. Like, may requirements yan. And then Sara came in and said, bakit nyo ilalagay pa yung interim release kung hindi nyo ibibigay sa tatay ko? Parang ganun yung dating. Diba? Like, the whole thing really exploded, right? Next thing you know, ang Australia daw, ang Belgium daw, none of them want to do anything about this. So what is your read? Like, is this another case of the Dutertes not reading the room? Now, this is not the... I'm sorry. This... You're from the... Oh, but this is not your barangay politics, basically, right? This is a real court. You cannot mess around here, right?
Yeah, I think the interim release is dead in the water already. I think the lawyer mishandled it, Kaufman, because he came out with a statement that the prosecution already agreed. I mean,
Hindi yun eh.
I mean,
Nag-usap-usap lang sila behind the...
they were. If I were the prosecution, why will I agree in advance? I mean, something strange there. So I think the prosecution got pissed off.
Yeah,
And
they look
I
pissed
think
off,
our opposition also worked.
Yeah, we were very maingay on this, yeah.
And I think that's it. I don't think he will.
Pero the answer of the 15-page answer ng prosecution was amazing, ha?
Yeah.
Tawa ako ng tawa.
Dami redacted doon.
Paano ginamit ng prosecution yung mga mismong salita
Yeah.
ng pamilya.
Yari ka talaga doon, yeah.
Diba? Sinisigaw nyo ay kidnap victim.
Oo.
Bakit babalik yung kidnap victim sa kidnapper?
Actually, that's it.
Sabi
That's a good point.
bring
If
him
we
home.
kidnap you, why should you come back to us on your own
Bakit
accord?
babalik? No,
So flight risk siya. Automatically flight risk.
Yeah.
Maliban pa sa napaka-powerful nito.
Oo.
Vice President.
Yung
At
Na
saka-
tinethreaten mismo yung presidente with assassination. Di ba? At ang mga anak, congressman, vice mayor, mga allies ng mga senador. Tapos cult-like following.
Cardboard, may
Diba?
museum.
Cult-like following. No? Grabe. Yung
At saka-
entire argument ng prosecution was basically yung sariling statements ng mga followers ni Digong.
Niluto sila sa sariling mantika, basically.
That's a
Yeah.
classic.
Yes,
Yeah.
nila yung mga nagrarally doon sa Hague.
Justice, you wanna say
At
something
saka,
and I'll go to you.
Yung sinabi nila na he's old for
Oo,
humanitarian purposes. Eh, nanalo sa election eh. That means he's able and
exactly.
willing to be a mayor.
600,000 your fellow Davayanes believing, nagpalakpakan sila nung nanalo si Dion.
This wasn't persecution. This is impunity. No? Ma-amaze ka doon sa 15 pages.
Yeah, actually,
parang tayo lang nag-uusap.
Parang binardagulan. No, which is why ang basa namin, na bad trip sila. Sino tong mga to? Binubuli nga online, Ako naman kasi Justice Carpio, ang basa ko, Mark, sa sobrang dami nagreklamo dun sa detention center ng kapitbahay, please policy nyo na itong mga to. Tawagin nyo mga Portugal, our aid to you will be cut. Diba? Kasi mas mayaman ng Netherlands. Pamaya namin, policy nyo na yan. Diba? Feeling ko it was just like, take him out of here. Like, we wanna leave. Diba? Ikaw, Mark, what's the online narrative ng DDS?
Oo nga, no? Baka kung sino tumanggap na bansa, doon naman lilipat.
Yun nga, sabi ko, are you sure you're gonna go for this?
Parang ano eh.
Yari kayo.
Ito naman, sa ibang mga kababayan natin, parang naghahanap lang ng picnic. O parang naghahanap
Sara.
lang ng, parang fellowship ba? Parang they enjoy yung
Concert.
community nila mga OFW.
O libreng sandwich.
Ayun. Tapos darating yung mga, may darating na
Nagpaparinig
artista.
si Sir Ronald, wala pa daw yung libreng sandwich. Parating na daw.
Darating yung mga artista, darating si Robin Padilla, darating, di ba?
Wait lang, bakit nandun si Robin Padilla, Sir Ronald? Why is Robin Padilla always there? Hindi naman siya makapasok sa
Siya daw ang
detention.
presidente ng PDP laban.
Pero wala na, di ba?
So ngayon, si Topacio na yan, no?
Siya na lang
Siya na yung pupunta, si Topacio. No? Siya na yung pupunta ron, siya yung presidente ng PDP laban, no?
Itong sa interim release, hindi kaya ito si Kaufman, ano lang, para lang meron lang siya
KPI.
Oo, nape-present.
Laki ng bayad sa kanya eh.
O, para masulit yung bayad sa
Buhay
kanya.
lang. Sir Ronald, naghahanap buhay lang.
Nagkakaroon lang.
Overrated siya eh. So, kailangan niyang ipakita.
Kailangan niya pakita
na
eh.
Hindi siya overrated.
Oo, ito, meron akong interim release.
Pero ngayon talaga, feeling ko delikado si Kaufman kasi sobrang pumalpak ng interim release argument nila. And Sara said, that doesn't mean we recognize the jurisdiction pa rin ng ICC. Meron pa siyang ganyang palusot, di ba?
Nakakatawa kasi dahil banat sila ng banat sa korte.
Yeah.
Yung korte magpapasya.
Kagat ka na kagat sa amo mo.
Mula
Tapos
yung
galit
opening
ka.
ni Medialdea. Yung kanyang opening si
Yeah.
Medialdea humawak.
Yeah.
Pinanatan yung korte.
Yeah, oo.
Oo, tapos ngayon, babanatan mo pa rin yung korte.
Sabi niya.
Pero ba gumagana si
Parang-
Medel?
Sinabi ni a troubled court looking for legitimacy. The rule
The next day siya yung umuwi.
alam mo, the rule is you never
Attack the court.
judge.
Yeah.
He's going to decide your case.
Natatawa ako ron.
Your fate depends on them. Kaya nga I'm wondering what are they trying to do. Kaya ikaw, Mark, ano bang narrative nila online ngayon?
Baka kaya kasi nila barangay justice court.
Kaya nga sabi ko they're not reading the room. Literally, they're not reading the room. But Justice, going back to the issue of ICC, speaking of bato, wala pa yung warrant of arrest na nagalit ng ibang tao? Kailan darating daw yung... Kasi si Bato, meron pa siyang mga nasa river, nasa travel, kaya sabi namin...
Ano yan? Ating prediction last year. Kasi tayo na-predict
Manner of...
Malabas ng ganitong...
Ayaw nga pala, napakakapay.
Pero
Lumabas rin.
Lumabas rin, tama pa rin tayo.
Yeah, lalabas rin ito.
Hindi kasi masyadong nag-enjoy si Bato nag-river
may control sa timeline ng ICC
Oo nga
No? Hindi naman, wala naman may control dyan. Pero lumabas pa rin. Yun yung mahalaga.
Do you guys read Justice? Kasi remember, the Trump sanctions are a bit heavier this time. Ang basa kasi in 2018, may sanction din doon sa Afghanistan US forces. But parang medyo mas matindi daw ngayon. Ang ginagawa daw ng ICC ngayon is, anything American, tinatanggal na nila. Even mga software, even yung mga hardware. So they're trying to get European. Sabi ko, baka Xiaomi gusto niya or Huawei. Kasi nasa sanction na sila And even yung mga US or American, US-based or American, pwede sila ma-sanction. Although, from what I understand, the ICC is they're adjusting. Kaya nagtatanong ako doon sa mga contacts niyo, may aircon na ba? May aircon pa rin ba sa ICC? Gumagana, may gwardiya pa rin? Kasi ang nilalabas ng DDS is, dahil kay Trump at sanction, babaksak ng ICC, the whole thing is gonna fall apart. It doesn't look like it. It looks like they're still, fining and dining.
Yeah. The ICC is a project of the European Union.
Yeah.
So they will support. They will support, and it's there in their territory, in EU. So that will continue.
But what about the Netanyahu issue? I mean, he was there in Hungary the other month lang.
Because the presidency Orban
And they even Hungary moved out, right? But it's not like the French or the German position was also reassuring, right? They said, "Will you arrest Netanyahu if he visits and all?" And
because it's also an issue of the lone superpower, the US.
they don't want to go against US.
Diba?
Kawawa naman si
nilang
Digong, wala nagpaprotekta sa kanya.
Only si Kwan lang si Zoran. Si
Zoran Mamdani, the presumptive, mayor pa, but he said, even if hindi ICC ang New York, arrest niya si Netanyahu. So bigla inisip ko si Bato. Si Bato cannot go to New York. Baka wala pang warrant of arrest. Inarrest na siya ni Zoran. Baka. Doon muna. Yeah. Katapos na. Yung mommy of Zoran. No, Justice, what is your... Could like US states do that? If they're not ICC member yung country?
No, I don't think they can.
So why would they say? Hindi kaya ito na ano
Ubusin lahat ng topic na yan.
Andyan na yung lunch natin Ito na, huli-huli na. Nagsasmile na. No, we're supposed to talk about ICC. Sir Ronald, ikaw kasi hindi ka illegal luminary. May legal luminary tayo. Huling tanong, Sir Ronald, dito sa issue ng ICC. And Mark, if you have also a question, singit natin dito. No, so on Bato, let's just be patient on that. But what about this last point na the Sara, because was it Article 5 or something? Yung conspiracy to commit crimes and all. Could there be a part of this hearing and trial that could be relevant to the ICC? Because in theory, Sara could still be part of the 6, 10, 11.
Yes, because in fact, I think Sara is a principal accused also because it was Sara who told Las Cañas not to kill people in the streets because it attracts media attention. Don't bring the dead people to the morgue because the reporters will go there. Just bury them in the quarry. Do it silently and bury them. And
ang tawag ni Las Cañas kay Sara, ang reyna ng Tokhang, the queen of Tokhang.
That's what I'm saying. There could be an
That's
adjacent.
not an empty claim.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so that's in the articles of impeachment. So yes, it's going to come out.
Converge yan, di ba?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine,
Yung threat lang niya sa presidente, ginamit ng prosecution para banatan
that's what I'm
yung
saying.
interim release.
So they're watching very carefully. For all we know, but yung vlogs natin, pinapanood ng prosecution team ng ICC, di ba? We're giving them ideas. I mean, no, I'm just saying, pwede mag-stars align against the Dutertes
Actually,
later
kumuha
this
ang
year.
ICC ng mga translators. Nag-hire sila.
ng Bardag
Mga
Bulan.
translators. Ngayon, Pilipino, Cebuano, etc. Dahil minomonitor nila lahat ng mga statements. No? Ng mga concern.
Mark, is there any last question before we head to our sumisingil na yung isang guest natin? Kanina, actually, pagdating niya, nasa yung lunch natin. Brunch pa yata, later na tayo.
Yeah, okay na naman ako.
We're good. Justice, is there any last point before we wrap up this special pre-20th Congress? What is our wish for aesthetic? What is our wish for the incoming Senate, Justice? What do you want to see? And do you think Supreme Court should eventually get involved? Can Supreme Court get involved even if this is just the Vice President? Directly or indirectly? How
Yeah,
do you see
because
this?
there's a
Oo nga pala, hindi ko
pending-
natanong yung Supreme Court. Yeah.
There's already a pending case in the Supreme Court involving the 1-year bar rule. That because Sara raised that
Yes.
in the Supreme Court, and so one way or another, if the Senate will not proceed, the prosecution will bring the same issue to the Supreme Court, and so I think it's going that way.
And you're confident about where Supreme Court will go on this issue?
Yes, for two reasons. Because one, the House in their reply laid out that the dates that exactly on the 10th session day, the resolution came out signed by more than 1/3 of the members of the House. So that prevails over all the other impeachment complaints. And also, even if there was a breach of the 10 session days, I don't think the court will say that the negligence of Secretary General Velasco is binding. I mean, that's a very dangerous doctrine.
That's an interesting angle. Pwede isang
Employee.
staff.
An employee. Even if he is a glorified employee, he is still an employee.
Kaya ang mangyari dyan, pag file mo, tataguin na yung complaint. Mawawala na yung complaint.
Inupuan ng staff. Ayoko umalis dito. Huwag na isang pa yan. Diba?
Pero tingin ko yung ICC, tuwan-tuwa sa politika natin.
I think-
habang minomonitor nila.
I think they're really following even the podcast. At the rate, I think, paano yung mga
Yung mga
latest podcast?
girlfriends kaya na mamonitor din nila.
Oo nga eh. I mean,
Away.
Pati yung away.
only in the Philippines, mayroon tayo.
Nasa ko twice yung 15 na page letter nila eh.
Hilarious.
Para sila mga podcaster eh.
Joe Rogan yata mo. David Joe Rogan. Well, this is gonna be their most VIP case. I mean, I don't think they're gonna catch any big fish anytime soon at the rate things are going. But on that note, only in the Philippines, magkakaroon tayo ng special series based on fake news. July pala daw, hindi June. si Mark nagtatanong kagabi, tuloy ba tayo? Ano bang pinagsasabi? Tuloy na tayo kahit hindi mangyari yung sinasabi ni Boy Kilay.
Pati yung Congress sumagot eh. Pati yung Congress nakala bukas eh.
Tapos hindi mo naman yung staff na naman, yung oh my God, may 1,000 live pala na dito. Bakit kayo gising? Matulog na kayo. Tama na yan. Ang dami pala nanonood sa YouTube. Okay, but to our, siguro I think nag-expect talaga sila magkaroon ng special session, no? Habang nag-ayos sila ng kilay, ng nail, weekend. On that note, thank you very much for everything, for wonderful, wonderful people.
Huwag niyo kalimutan, palapit na ang UNCLOS anniversary.
Yun!
July 12.
Historic victory sa UNCLOS against China.
Oh, at saka
At magkasama kami doon.
Wait, excuse me. Sarah, before there was you and Justice and there was me and Mark, there was me and Justice. Di ba tayo Justice ang mga teammates sa West Philippine Sea?
Victory has a lot of parents.
Just to be clear, that applies to you, not to me. Alright? Ako, I have millions of publications.
We have the pictures to prove it. Marami kami pictures sa The Hague.
Si Sir Ronald kasi puro mga turista nagpipicture lang sa Hague. Habang kaming kawawa, nagsiscribble ng mga articles ng ng on-clause. But anyways, bago tayo mag-aaway sa pwede tayo maging spokesman, Sir Ronald. Ako sa House, ikaw sa Senate.
Mukha ka model eh.
Ayan tayo. Ako na lang Senate kasi model. On that very aesthetic note, Sir Mark, wala ka bang habol sa aesthetic commentaries?
Ito na siya.
Sir Ronald, makakancel talaga yung show natin dahil sa'yo. On that note, thank you very much. God bless and talk to you soon.